Start with contracting sprites. Chapter 386, Immortal Palace Master Butterfly. On the vast land, the aura of the titanium wolf erupted. The hurricane swept up was like a blade, leaving deep marks on the rocks nearby. It raised its head, and its sharp gaze shot out like two swords, as if it wanted to tear the air apart. Just its gaze alone made the dumb unicorn stomp heavily. Blue and white clouds lingered, hurriedly protecting Su Hao. At this moment, Butterfly flew down from the throne and scattered emerald green light in the air. Its body returned to its original appearance in a flash. The butterfly robe fluttered like a fairy descending to earth. As soon as Butterfly flew out, it dissipated the sharp aura of the titanium wolf. When it stretched out its hand, countless shadows distorted. The Dark Society Heavenly King was stunned. He thought that the one who appeared at this moment would be that black-robed sprite, but he didn't expect. This sprite seems to be called Butterfly Fairy. Is it also monarch rank? His titanium wolf didn't sense the power of a monarch, but it did sense a threat from butterflies spreading and overlapping light and shadow. Suddenly, it stepped on the ground and pounced forward. Boom! Its figure appeared in midair in an instant, and its golden claws suddenly extended and tore down. At this moment, a huge pit appeared in the ground. An explosion sounded. Smoke and dust filled the air. The sharp claws in the sky slashed down like swords, slashing apart the dancing butterfly fairy with a whoosh, but the two halves of its body immediately turned into stardust and dissipated. The golden sword beam didn't lose momentum as it landed on the ground. Amidst the trembling, 100-meter-long crack spread out. A little fierce. Although such destructive power could be achieved by all monarch-level sprites, it was able to unleash it without using a full-powered attack. The titanium wolf's slash was far from being done. When its attack missed, it would continue on attacking by changing directions. Streaks of golden light slashed out, and many of these slashes were aimed towards Su Hao. Nay! The dumb unicorn drifted on a cloud, dodging the flying sword light before quickly going higher and further away. The titanium wolf couldn't find Butterfly's location. It wanted to chase after the white cloud, but its body, which was in mid-air, suddenly paused. It suddenly fell down. When it fell to a low altitude, its body suddenly shook and rolled heavily on the ground. Boom! A huge ring-shaped pit appeared. The titanium wolf leaped out of the pit, its sharp gaze fixed somewhere. Golden light shot out from its eyes like a sword. In the sky, space rippled, and Butterfly's figure appeared. No one was injured after a round of probing, but the toughness of the titanium wolf was revealed to Su Hao. According to the classification of monarch rank, it's already proven that it is a high-class monarch. Its short-distance explosion is extremely terrifying, and its physical body is strong. For example, the sand earthworm dragon had strong defense, but its huge body was flawed and could be easily targeted. As for the titanium wolf, its defense wasn't inferior to that sand earthworm dragon. It even had a terrifying explosive speed and extremely strong single-target killing power. If it fought with the sand earthworm dragon, the titanium wolf could easily tear the earthworm dragon into pieces in a short period of time without receiving any damage. It's a troublesome enemy. Although its attack methods may be simple, it doesn't have any obvious shortcomings. It's the same as the dazed crow. Its will is extremely strong, and it has a very high resistance to illusion. Unless the difference in Butterfly's illusion skill and its resistance is huge, it's very difficult to exert illusion influence. Illusion was like this. It always worked on the weaker ones and could be settled with just a single move, but those with strong resistance on the surface were hard to crack in a short period of time. In front of such beings, illusion was a little useless. Fortunately, Butterfly's illusion was no longer limited to ordinary five senses and illusion scenes. At this moment, a fiery red figure flew over at an extremely fast speed from afar. It was a flaming divine hound. Its fiery red fluffy hair fluttered in the wind, scattering sparks everywhere it passed. As soon as it arrived, its eyes stared fixedly at the titanium wolf. Its hind legs exerted force and pounced forward abruptly. Rings of red flames rose up, flying like a burning train. The air exploded, bringing up waves of fiery red. In just an instant, it rushed in front of the titanium wolf and charged straight at it. Boom! At that instant, golden light rushed into the sky. The sea of fire split into two, and the titanium wolf rushed out of the wave of fire unscathed. After the flaming divine hound flew hundreds of meters, it also stopped on all fours. It whimpered and one could see that a part of its fluffy hair was actually cut off. The big fiery red dog stared at the titanium wolf with solemn eyes, and a hint of fear. The flaming divine hound couldn't compete against it. At the same time, on planet Aquamarine, a fire god soldier was carrying a person and flying towards Demon City. On the fire god soldier, Defender Yang kept asking about the recent situation. We found traces of the Dark Society Heavenly King. What? A fight is going on and the exact situation isn't clear. The identity comparison is out? Wait, it's actually the creator of the incident in Cal City 5 years ago, Yu Dan. This time, he bypassed the detection with a disguised identity and entered the Red Rock Town area. A photo was sent to Guardian Yang's Sprite commandeering wristband. It was a man with a high nose bridge and a dark expression. This person came from a small European country, but he was a genius. He entered the third stage of the Supernova Cup at the age of 25. Later on, after he mysteriously disappeared and reappeared, he was already a high-level official of the Dark Society. Yu Dan had once led a large-scale terrorist attack and even heavily injured the monarch sprite that was chasing after him at that time and escaped. Yu Dan's fleeing ability is weak, but the titanium wolf's frontal attack is very strong. This encirclement probably won't be easy to fight. There was a battle going on 10 to 20 kilometers away from Red Rock Town. Butterfly floated in mid-air, forming a triangle with the other two sprites, Titanium Wolf and Flaming Divine Hound. Further away was Dark Society Heavenly King Yu Dan. He had already recalled the Steel God Soldier and summoned another extraordinary sprite to protect it. Let the Flaming Divine Hound stall the Dark Society Heavenly King. Butterfly nodded and sent a mental message. However, the Flaming Divine Hound shook its head, indicating that it had other plans. It wanted to prioritize keeping itself alive. As for arresting the Dark Society Heavenly King, it would wait for its sprite trainers and reinforcements to arrive first. It was normal for it to think like that. But I had promised that I would be back soon after a trip to Red Rock Town. Crow is still advancing. Su Hao looked at Butterfly. Butterfly didn't turn around, but it stretched out its hand and made a V, indicating that there wasn't a big problem. The next moment, the shadow distorted again and spread out like a wave, covering 100 meters, 1000 meters, and even further. Mist filled the air. Magnificent halls shone brightly under the sunlight. A blue stone path spread out, the fragrance of flowers overflowed, and immortal voices sounded. In just an instant, the titanium wolf found itself in the midst of the vast hall. The Dark Society Heavenly King Yu Dan felt the ground. His palm was not able to pass through it. The Steel God Soldier threw a punch at the ground, but it only hit gravel several meters away, and the ground quickly returned to its original state. Illusion? No. The Heavenly King looked around and realized that the red-brown land outside the hall was still the same. He calmed down. It's just some tricks. Don't waste time, he said to the titanium wolf. Suddenly, the scene changed. Waves of immortal voices spread, but the voices kept echoing in the Heavenly King's mind like a bell. The titanium wolf staggered. The extraordinary sprite guarding Yu Dan also fell straight down, and the Steel God Soldier kept scratching its armor. At this moment, countless light dots surged into the sky and gathered into the appearance of Butterfly Fairy. Floating in mid-air, countless illusion butterflies danced around. The illusion of the immortal realm had appeared behind the Heavenly King. The water rippled and misty immortal essences filled the air. It was the Immortal Palace. Chapter 387, Combined Combat Methods. The scenery of the Immortal Palace shrouded, turning illusion into reality. Even though one could still see the unique reddish-brown land of Red Rock Town from afar, and even see some active volcanoes emitting black smoke, the space here was already different from the outside world. It wasn't completely sealed off, but one also couldn't exactly leap out of it. Light and shadow distorted, blurring the Heavenly King's eyes. The titanium wolf roared, all the hair on its body standing on end. Its surging aura swept up waves of air, and the plants of the Immortal Palace that were swept by the hurricane only shook slightly. However, under the Immortal Palace, in the vast land that could be seen through the half-illusory and half-real scenery, sand and dust filled the sky like before. Millstone-sized rocks rolled on the ground and exploded from time to time. Boom! The blue stone of the Immortal Palace shattered, and a huge pit exploded on the reddish-brown ground. The titanium wolf puffed up its muscles and maintained its posture after leaping up. In fact, its entire body had already crossed hundreds of meters and instantly leaped into mid-air. It closed its eyes and sealed its ears, only following its instinct to claw at a certain part of the Immortal Palace. Bang! Explosions! The titanium wolf's figure suddenly came to a stop. In front of it, a lustrous white ball slowly spun. Blazing red light blossomed from within, and endless blazing red flames instantly surged out, swallowing the titanium wolf's figure. This wasn't any ordinary fire. Instead, it had an even more intrinsic spiritual damage. It could quickly turn from illusory to solid and carried a destructive power. Spiritual fire. Roar! The next moment, the titanium wolf rushed out. Its lustrous golden fur was now slightly charred. This was the first time it had been injured since the battle. Its injuries weren't serious, and it clearly had a very strong life force and healing ability, but it was recovering very slowly now. Gurgle! Butterfly's figure appeared in a hall. 3 precious balls flew around it, but one of them had some cracks on it. Butterfly's heart ached at the sight. This titanium wolf only has one attack, but it's extremely fast and fierce and has sharp instincts. Moreover, it was moving so suddenly just now that even Butterfly had no choice but to use the spiritual treasure ball to block it. However, although the titanium wolf's aura is sharp and it was difficult for Butterfly to leave a mark on its body, as long as it's inside the Immortal Palace, every move it makes will leave traces. At this moment, the titanium wolf's figure flashed continuously, leaving behind afterimages. Its sharp claws tore through the air, and many of the halls of the Immortal Palace were slashed apart. Its power spread to the outside world, and the ground under the Immortal Palaces was even more devastated. The rumbling continued. Even people in Red Rock Town, who were 10 to 20 kilometers away, could feel it. When they looked into the distance, they would see golden light shooting into the sky from time to time. In the Immortal Palace, Butterfly's figure kept changing. Every time it did, it dodged the titanium wolf's attack. Of course, this wasn't because its speed was faster than the titanium wolf. It was just that inside the Immortal Palace, every inch of the area was under Butterfly's control. With a thought, it could exchange positions with every blade of grass and tree, appearing in any corner of the Immortal Palace. Boom! Sizzle! The titanium wolf punched through the wall of the hall, but Butterfly's figure in front of the wall had already faded and disappeared, leaving behind only a blade of grass. In the next moment, countless bluish-purple thunder arcs emerged from the hall, turning into a sea of thunder. Water surged and thunder roared, releasing destructive power. The lethality of the Thunder Temple was now akin to the ocean boss that was produced by the cooperation of a few sprites a while back. Waves rolled and thunder swam. The violent energy was locked in this hall. However, the titanium wolf reacted very quickly. It let out a roar and directly tore apart the restraints of water, lightning, and space. With a few more punches, it shattered the firm walls of the hall. After that, it flashed and appeared on the blue stone path. The stone slab suddenly cracked. Sprouts broke out of the ground and turned into thick tree vines in the blink of an eye. The vines enveloped hundreds of meters and firmly trapped the titanium wolf. This move imitated Senior Wu's 10,000 vine array, and was modified by Butterfly to be integrated into the Immortal Palace system. Thick vines wrapped around the titanium wolf's body, like huge dark green snakes, constantly binding, contracting, and strangling the wolf. Especially against the titanium wolf's limbs, the huge force's restraint made it difficult for it to raise its claws to tear apart the vines in front of it. There were even needles extending from the vines to pierce through the wolf's fur, stabbing into its body and absorbing its life force. From the outside, the titanium wolf could no longer be seen. There were only countless vines wrapped around each other, interweaving into a spiral-shaped heavenly vine. Suddenly, a flash of golden light burst forth, and a hole was blasted through the heavenly vine, which looked like countless pythons interweaving. One could vaguely see the titanium wolf opening its huge mouth and spitting out a dazzling golden light. The golden light slashed open the vines in front of it like a blade. Taking advantage of this opportunity, it erupted with the power of its limbs. Rib. Bright golden light burst forth, and in a short while, it completely tore the 10,000 vine array apart. Countless vines floated down and slowly dissipated in the air. The titanium wolf stepped on the ground with its feet. Its hair, which was like steel needles, lengthened, and its aura became increasingly terrifying as it formed dozens of clones. They covered Butterfly Fairy like a net, tearing apart and removing the limestone, vines, lightning, and flames blocking the way. The dozens of wolves now erupted with terrifying killing intent, firmly locking onto the emerald green figure in the center. A murderous wind howled. Butterfly raised its hand and the three lustrous white precious balls collided. The misty white light that enveloped the precious ball and instantly lengthened, turning it into a green staff. With the point of the staff, raging glass-colored flames instantly ignited with the tip of the staff as the center. The dreamy and illusionary flames swept out in an instant, colliding with the golden light torn out by many of the wolf figures. The stalemate lasted for a while before the many figures were swallowed and burned to death, leaving only the titanium wolf's main body with endless killing intent tearing through the glass sea of fire. Butterfly glanced at the figure's fate and disappear and then reappeared in a location that was 1,000 meters away. The green staff turned into a glass-colored curved blade again and disappeared from its hand. At this moment, the titanium wolf that had just torn apart Butterfly's shadow exploded with sharp hair. Its figure forcefully moved several meters horizontally in mid-air, but a glass-colored wound could now be seen on its ribs. Triggered by the pain from its ribs, its head buzzed, and it felt as if a sharp blade had hit its head and pierced through it. The titanium wolf endured the pain. Without the slightest pause in its movements, it brandished its metallic claws, but it only cut through the air and didn't tear through anything. It could only rely on its instincts to constantly change directions in mid-air. After a long while, it stopped at the peak of a hall. It saw Butterfly Fairy reach out and grab at the air. The glass-colored curved blade appeared in front of Butterfly and separated in the sparkling white light, turning into 3 crystal balls and flying back to hover behind it. At this moment, Heavenly King of the Dark Society, Yudan, was with his steel god soldier as they kept circling around the flaming divine hound. He was also keeping an eye on the battle in the distance. The battle between Butterfly Fairy and the titanium wolf was the more important battle. Only by getting rid of Butterfly Fairy could he enter the depths of the wilderness. Otherwise, he would be constantly restricted. However, the more he observed, the more shocked he became. When the battle had just erupted, the titanium wolf had even seized a few opportunities to crack Butterfly's precious balls. But as the battle progressed, Butterfly Fairy's many methods started becoming increasingly strange. It was clearly a wood element sprite, but it could use terrifying thunder, waves, and fire killer moves. At this point, he discovered that Butterfly Fairy was getting more and more at ease. On the other hand, the titanium wolf had already been injured multiple times. The thunder and fire injuries it suffered previously were still insignificant, but the curved blade just now had brought considerable damage to the titanium wolf. If this continued, the titanium wolf's battle power would drop rapidly. But what the titanium wolf lacks right now isn't destructive power, nor does it lack the power of a unique skill. Just relying on my Heavenly King domain alone won't change the current situation. Unless... He looked at the damaged Immortal Palace Hall that was currently being repaired at a quick pace. Unless this strange illusion is completely broken. If I can break that secret manual, it would be impossible for it to use it again in a short period of time. Dark Society Heavenly King pondered. The acute metal domain blossomed from his body and the aura of the titanium wolf kept increasing. Even its skeleton grew a little larger, and its explosive muscles bulged. In the next moment, the titanium wolf roared towards the sky. Its clones flashed out one after another, and the numbers grew larger and larger. In the blink of an eye, there were now hundreds of them. They were densely packed, and all of the clones emitted a sharp golden light. They gathered together and rushed into the sky like golden swords. Chapter 388, Wolf God's Thousand Slaughter, Immortal Palace suppressing the enemy. In the Red Rock Town. After confirming that the Heavenly King of the Dark Society was not in the town, the officials of Red Rock Town quickly took action and completely sealed off the whole town. The 4 city gates were all blocked, and Sprite trainers patrolled on the city walls. They also kept watch of their surveillance cameras. A wall couldn't stop elite-level Sprite trainers, but surveillance cameras could make Sprite trainers behave. In this situation, anyone who dared to charge out of the city would be easily identified and would receive special care. But what exactly happened? Why is the city suddenly sealed? The news about the Red Lotus Group's goods is also fake, right? My uncle's neighbor works at the Defender residence. He told me that he didn't see any large goods at all. So what's going on? It can't be that wild sprites are attacking the city, right? No way, no way. Could it be that there are still people who think the world is the same as it was 20 to 30 years ago? The development of Red Rock Town has been going on for decades now. There are barely any wild sprites left in the wilderness. And the ones that are left can't wait to hide. So, am I the only one who's concerned about how long this city closure will last? What if my girlfriend who's not in town cheats on me? Let me out. I want to earn money. Do you know how much money I'm losing every second by not working? Discussions broke out in Red Rock Town. At this moment, a sprite with sharp senses discovered that the ground was trembling. At first, the trembling was still very small, and it was very difficult to notice if one didn't pay close attention. But gradually, the shaking became fiercer and fiercer, and many fine rocks on the street started jumping. Could it really be sprites attacking the city? Someone stood at a high point and saw golden beams shooting into the sky, tearing through the clouds. He couldn't help but curse. Some sprite trainers who wanted to leave the city to make money couldn't help but fall silent when they saw the destructive power in the distance. Actually, on second thought, it's too dangerous outside. It's better if we stay inside Red Rock Town. Above the Immortal Palace, in the clouds. Su Hao looked down. The battle between Butterfly and the Titanium Wolf had indeed become more relaxed as time passed. After all, Butterfly had also broken through to Monarch rank a few days ago. Even though it had recently broken through, it only took a short while for her to complete the development that ordinary sprites needed a few months to finish. Even though it was able to quickly grasp the power it possessed after breaking through. But Monarch rank was still countless times stronger than Pseudo-Monarch rank, and Butterfly had never truly fought against experts of the same level. From the initial disadvantage to the present advantage, the Titanium Wolf had provided a good opportunity for Butterfly to train. The Titanium Wolf was strong enough. It also had thick skin. It also allowed Butterfly to gradually test its abilities. Using the Immortal Palace as a base, Butterfly was able to use all the methods it was good at and improved very quickly. But it looks like the Titanium Wolf is about to use its killer move. Su Hao thought to himself. Butterfly was also about to unleash its power. At this moment, in the Immortal Palace, the wolf clones stepped on the air and rushed into the sky. Their whole bodies blossomed with rich sharp metal light, like golden suns slowly rising into the sky. Among them, the titanium wolf's main body emitted the most powerful golden light. It was so dazzling and blinding. Swish! An invisible spiritual blade slashed across. These clones were far from as resistant as the titanium wolf. In an instant, dozens of golden suns were obliterated. The remaining golden suns, however, gathered towards the titanium wolf's main body in an instant. Whoosh! 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 Golden figures merged one after another, and a huge wolf-shaped phantom appeared in the sky. Its power rose to the peak, and even the Red Rock Town sprite trainers 10 to 20 kilometers away could clearly see the phantom. It was even to the extent that they could sense the terrifying imposing aura. Countless sprites trembled. At this moment, at the world entrance, a fiery red figure and a blue-purple figure rushed out. It was two sprites. They were the fire god soldier and purple lightning wings. They were quite different from ordinary sprites of the same race. They carried a stronger aura and were also carrying their respective sprite trainers. It was the big boss reinforcements from planet Aquamarine. They were Defender Yang and the honorary president of the Magic City Guild. As soon as they saw the golden light shooting into the sky and the terrifying wolf-shaped shadow, they knew that the fight was going to be troublesome. After all, Defender Yang's flaming divine hound was a fire element sprite. They knew that Su Hao didn't have any metal element sprites either. Thus, they concluded that the only one who could unleash such a terrifying attack could only be the Heavenly King of the Dark Society's Titanium Wolf. For a moment, all kinds of terrible situations that could happen surfaced in Defender Yang's mind, but he didn't have time to think about it. "Let's go!" he shouted. The fire god soldier carried him and turned into a stream of light, shooting into the sky. The purple lightning wings also flapped its wings and flew over. Gurgle! With a flip of Butterfly's wrist, grand palace halls appeared in mid-air, overlapping one another like reflections in water. Below Butterfly was the Immortal Palace. Above it was also an Immortal Palace. Butterfly looked at the huge werewolf phantom in front of it. The lines of its body were formed by golden light, and every golden light contained extreme energy. Just by existing there, it brought immense pressure to the Immortal Palace. The magnificent halls trembled and cracked, and the walls and the roofs even showed signs of cracking. Gurgle! Butterfly released some of its restraints, and the ground of the Immortal Palace cracked widely. Countless huge cracks spread, and the pressure brought by the wolf phantom broke through the Immortal Palace and enveloped the vast land. In an instant, the trembling of the ground became more and more violent. The ground under the Immortal Palace even cracked open and a crack hundreds of meters long appeared. It was the destructive power brought about by a substantial pressure spilling out of the gap. It made the two heavenly kings who were watching from afar even more shocked. But they were still traveling. There were still more than 10 kilometers to go. And the thousands of golden lights burst out by the wolf phantom gathered, like a huge golden sword that pierced the sky, tearing through space, leaving behind a long, thin, and very real spatial rift. The next moment, the huge golden sword fell. Boom! The impact it caused was explosive and heaven and earth seemed to have swapped places. Piercing golden light enveloped the sky and earth, piercing through layers of space. Magnificent and exquisite halls shattered in the golden light, and the terrifying power created a huge crack in the reddish-brown ground. Boom! Explosions! The ground kept cracking. In the blink of an eye, it formed a huge rift that was several kilometers long. The Immortal Palace was already enveloped by the golden storm. The extreme power of sharp metal wreaked havoc, destroying everything it touched. It was like a natural disaster. Defender Yang, who was still only halfway there, had a change in expression because he realized that Flaming Divine Hound had been injured in this terrifying golden storm. And the flaming divine hound had only been struck by the aftermath. What about Butterfly Fairy, who was at the core of all this chaos? Rumble. The terrifying acute metal storm continued to wreak havoc. The extreme energy lasted for more than 10 seconds before gradually dissipating. At this moment, apart from a rift that was a few kilometers long, there was also an indescribable huge but smooth pit at the core of the battlefield. Not a single of Butterfly's halls survived. Only a few walls remained standing on the huge pit. Some of it is still left standing, but just as Dark Society Heavenly King Yudan was about to give the order to let the Titanium Wolf find the Butterfly Fairy's true body and take advantage of the moment to attack, he saw countless illusionary butterflies appeared, turning into Butterfly Fairy's figure. The 3 precious balls surrounding her body were cracked to different degrees, but Butterfly Fairy's figure was completely unharmed. It only looked a little angry. Its hands came together, and ripples appeared in the sky, revealing the halls in a mere reflection. The halls had been illusionary. There were no real traces. But in the next moment, as Butterfly gestured with its hands, only a few of the shattered halls remained in the scene. On the ground, the sound of the Immortal Palace lingered and halls covered the whole place once again. Light and shadow distorted, and the halls were lifted into the sky. The halls started to float around as they enveloped the sky. As Butterfly's right palm pressed down, the halls smashed towards the Titanium Wolf that had lost its spirit. Chapter 389, Dazed Crow, Crow's blade is ready for a fight. The halls had changed positions and flew into the sky. Waves that couldn't be seen with the naked eye spread out, and thick mist shrouded it. At the center of all this, the aura of the Titanium Wolf was no longer as strong. As the wolf looked at the halls in front of it, its eyes widened in confusion. This was different from what the sprite trainer told me. Didn't he say that once such a secret manual was destroyed, it would be very difficult for it to be used again? The Titanium Wolf's muscular head couldn't come up with an answer. It only felt that a great crisis was about to arrive. Its body swayed and its figure became blurry, flashing out dozens of identical clones. Meanwhile, its main body restrained its aura and mixed in with the countless clones as it tried to run away from the Immortal Palace. Bang! The immortal sound rang out, and the Titanium Wolf's figures became sluggish. In the next moment, they completely stopped and exploded with a bang. At this moment, countless Titanium Wolves ran 500 meters in different directions. However, they were still very far from the edge of the Immortal Palace. If one looked at the entire Immortal Palace from the outside, it would only look like it was a few hundred to 1,000 meters. But inside, Titanium Wolves that could sprint a few hundred meters in an instant were still trapped in the middle of the palace no matter how hard they ran. The distance between them and the exit seemed to have only shrunk by a little. In the next second, many Titanium Wolves either stepped on the air, stopped or started moving horizontally. But a few of them were still cut into 2, disappearing with a bang. In the second after that, countless vines swept across like whips. Glazed fireballs blasted down from the sky. Water dragons burst out from the well, and thunder arcs swam around, turning into a sea of thunder. The black smoke gathered and added a hint of coldness to the celestial-like palace. For a moment, the whole Immortal Palace seemed to have come alive. Countless unique skills blasted down at the fleeing Titanium Wolves. Before they could escape halfway, the clones all exploded with a bang, leaving only the Titanium Wolf's main body. At this moment, above the Immortal Palace, halls overlapped and grew continuously. An indescribable pressure enveloped the Immortal Palace, just like the huge golden sword slashed out by the Titanium Wolf just now. It seemed to have caused the whole space to freeze. The movement of the Titanium Wolf also slowed down. It stopped fleeing. With a ferocious look in its eyes, a golden element nomological mark appeared on its forehead. Its somewhat dispirited aura rose again, and the wounds on its body actually healed rapidly. Howl! The Titanium Wolf's claws overlapped as it swung its all-out attack towards the hall that was falling on it. Golden light soared into the sky and hit the bottom of the hall. Bang! There was no terrifying shock wave, no exploding rocks, only golden light hitting the hall, bouncing and dissipating. The hall only shook slightly before continuing to fall without reducing its momentum. Golden light rushed into the sky again. The golden light was like a sword. Countless hairs on the titanium wolf exploded, snapping one by one. It felt like a long time had passed, but also felt like it had only been an instant. Boom! The magnificent halls descended. With a push and a turn, the dazzling golden light disappeared. The originally strong and sharp titanium wolf aura also disappeared along with the golden light. Only by carefully sensing could one discover traces of titanium wolf aura coming out of one of the halls. Its aura had already declined a lot. And then, the hall in which the titanium wolf was in flew up, spinning and shrinking as it turned into a palm-sized building. It flew out with a whoosh and landed in Butterfly's palm. It held the hall with its right hand, grabbed a precious ball with many cracks on it with its left hand, and smashed them together with a snort. Bang! 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 Every time the precious ball smashed into the hall, a sparkling white light flashed. The hall that was still shaking gradually calmed down. When one sensed carefully, one could discover that the aura of the titanium wolf was now like a candle in the wind. In the wilderness, the heavenly king of the dark society, Yudan, was burrowing into the steel god soldier's body and flying into the distance in a panic. He was taking advantage of the chaos caused by the titanium wolf just now to escape himself. However, he saw two strong sprites flying over from the distant horizon. The Dark Society Heavenly King started to panic. He paid a price to break free from the flaming Divine Hound's entanglement. As he flew towards the depths of the wilderness, he also wanted to summon the titanium wolf back. He wanted to summon it back to protect himself. It could also allow the titanium wolf to escape from the range of the Immortal Palace. However, Sprite commandeering, summon. 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 Why won't it work? He changed various positions, commands, and tones as he held onto the steel god soldier's body, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't summon the titanium wolf back. He could only transmit some domain power to the titanium wolf to help it while he tried to escape on his own on the steel god soldier. I'll be back. Just as his thoughts surfaced, he was horrified to discover that his contractual connection with the titanium wolf was almost gone. He could feel that they were very close, but it was as if they were separated by a world. Power couldn't be transmitted and commands could not be heard. When he turned around, he saw the scene of the Immortal Palace dissipate, and a colorful cloud that was following closely behind him, maintaining a distance. After a while, whoosh whoosh. The red and purple figures finally caught up to the person in front and slowly descended with their sprite trainers. Of course, this wasn't because they were fast, but purely because the fleeing Dark Society officer, Yudan, had been caught. Butterfly Fairy had chased after it on a cloud, and the flaming Divine Hound had also followed closely behind. Only then did the big boss reinforcements finally arrive at their destination. Defender Yang and the honorary president looked at the flaming Divine Hound that was fighting the steel god soldier not far away. With a wave of their hands, the two sprites, Fire God Soldier and Purple Lightning Wings, pounced forward. It was now very unlikely for the imposing enemy to escape. But Defender Yang and the honorary president did not feel any excitement or joy. According to the script, shouldn't they have arrived at the critical moment to turn the tide and fight 300 rounds with the Dark Society Heavenly King, risking injury to finally kill or subdue the enemy? Defender Yang had already thought of how to answer the reporters' questions after the battle ended. However, contrary to their expectations, when they arrived at the scene, the battle seemed to have already. My sprites are exhausted. The rest of the battle can only be left to you, seniors. This is. Su Hao was trying to give them credit so that their trip would not have been wasted. When Defender Yang heard this, his expression became complicated. Not only was this young inspector strong, he was also very good at helping others save face. However, he didn't want to take credit he didn't deserve. It's all thanks to you that we were able to arrest the high-level officer of the Dark Society, Yu Dan. Otherwise, I might have even lost my job as defender, let alone get any credit. I owe you a favor for this. Defender Yang said. The action didn't stop yet. With the enveloping domain power, the Fire God Soldier and the Flaming God Hound, along with the purple lightning wings, forced the Steel God Soldier to retreat step by step. In just a short while, it was heavily injured. Seeing that the outcome had been decided, Su Hao was preparing to leave. Although Defender Yang said he didn't want any credit, Butterfly had indeed consumed a lot of energy and needed to go heal, cough, more like go play. The Dazed Crow's advancement ritual was also about to end soon, and he didn't want to deal with these very troublesome ends either. He bade the two heavenly kings farewell for the time being, stepped on the colorful cloud, and flew towards the lava fire cave with a whoosh. At the center of the lava fire cave. Once he returned here, Su Hao saw a Yan hovering a few meters in mid-air. Its eyes were closed, and countless shadow energy lingered around it. Its monarch rank aura gradually stabilized and slowly rose. It was cultivating right now, and it was also using the afterglow of breaking through to quickly improve. By doing so, it could save a month or two of effort in the future. Su Hao didn't disturb it and only asked the applicants about the situation. He understood that they had chased after the enemies for a period of time, but didn't dare to chase too far. After all, the escaping Dark Society members still had pretty strong battle power. The three officers all escaped, and they were only able to catch 5 ordinary master-level members. These captives were currently tied up by special ropes and separated from each other. A cold-faced young man was interrogating them. He looked very familiar. Just as Su Hao was about to ask, he sensed something. He suddenly turned his head and looked to the right. The hot fire elements in the air were sucked out in an instant. The huge red light cocoon on the lava pool cracked, and hot magma surged out. A golden blazing sun broke through the restraints and released a dazzling golden light. The Dazed Crow had just broken out of its cocoon and its figure had yet to appear. Before the golden sun rushed into the sky, it let out a loud cry. Squawk, this crow has come out of seclusion. Where is the enemy? Crow's blade is already unbearably hungry. Squawk. Chapter 390, Yama Ghost King's 2 Advanced Pathways. The lava surged violently, and a golden blazing sun rose into the sky, scattering dazzling light, making it difficult for many people present to open their eyes. The Dazed Crow, which had completed the evolution of the sun, turned into a blazing sun that was even more dazzling than before. Surging golden flames released extreme heat, causing the already high temperature of the lava fire cave to rise again. The air constantly distorted, and the ground seemed to be burning and cracking. There was even an imposing aura that swept towards the surroundings. The applicants widened their eyes, and the sprites trembled again. This aura, this evolution. How scary! At this moment, the Dazed Crow had already advanced to pseudo-monarch rank in one go. Its flames and feathers had qualitative changes after it advanced. In other words, its battle power had increased greatly. Its body was filled with endless energy, and its large blade was already unable to endure the thirst of battle and urgently needed to be used. Squawk! It called out impatiently. Crow knew that during its advancement process, an enemy was attacking. According to its judgment, the enemy was also very strong, making it unable to contain its excitement. After the advancement ritual was completed, it wanted to break out of its cocoon at the first moment and test its strength against a strong enemy. But where was the enemy? Where did the enemy go? Hey? Has the battle already ended? The surging golden flames converged, and the handsome Dazed Crow descended from the sky. Its torso feathers were scarlet red, and as the feathers spread out, they gradually turned into a reddish gold color. When these feathers reached the ends of the 2 winged feathers and long tail feathers, they turned into extreme dazzling gold. Even though it had already converged most of its power, there was still an extremely high temperature near the crow. The dumb unicorn ran away in disdain. But the flaming spirit crow that walked out of the evolution ritual didn't demonstrate its incomparably strong power. It only widened its eyes, held its chest, and took a few steps back in a disheartened manner. It had clearly completed its advancement and had become much stronger. Clearly, a powerful enemy was near. But why was there nothing now? Why? At this moment, Ayan exited from the cultivation state and heard Crow's pitiful cries. Seeing its wings stirring the lava and drawing circles pitifully and continuously, it felt a little sorry. After all, it was the one who had fought the steel god soldier. Thinking of this, Ayan flew over and called, "Hoo-hoo! I would be your opponent." Squawk! Really? In the past, all of you never bothered to fight me. The dazed crow asked for confirmation. After getting an affirmative answer, its eyes immediately lit up. Its golden flames burned. Its wings spread high, rolling flames emerged, and boundless light scattered. It instantly entered the sun form, which was faster and stronger than before. Golden light enveloped it, and many soil and rocks melted under the high temperature. The wild sprites in the lava fire cave cowered and hid in the lava pools, not daring to show their heads. This aura was even stronger than when it had just broken out of its cocoon. It had already gone all out. It wasn't inferior to a monarch sprite at all. Squawk! The blazing sun flew out and blasted down like a meteorite, leaving only dazzling golden light in everyone's vision. Great Sun Golden Wheel, Supreme Being, Wise Buddha, squawk! Bang! A huge ghost claw emerged and slashed forward. The cold shadow actually instantly covered the bright sun golden flame and swept away the golden blazing sun with endless aura. Rumble! The blazing sun crashed into a certain magma river more than 1,000 meters away, collapsing hundreds of meters in radius. Countless soil and rocks melted and disappeared in the golden flames. After a while, the great sun golden wheel was no longer there. Only a dazed crow could be seen flapping its wings as it flew back shakily. It looked a little confused. Didn't I just go through an advancement ritual? The applicants who were shocked by the dazed crow's aura were now shocked by the fact that it got beat down in a single move. The dazed crow was also doubting its race at this moment. As for Ayan only felt embarrassed and simply wanted to return to Su Hao's shadow. Su Hao, on the other hand, Su Hao was collecting the materials that remained after the crow's advancement ritual. Naturally, he was collecting the materials to reuse them in the future advancement rituals of crow, bear, and dumb unicorn. It was a sin to waste. At the same time, he opened Ayan's interface. When Ayan broke through not long ago, there seemed to be a prompt sound. At that time, Su Hao was busy chasing after the big fish from the Dark Society and didn't pay much attention to it. Now that he looked, the unlocking conditions for Ayan's advanced plan have been met. Evolution Pathway, Yama Ghost King, Final Form, Darkness, unlock with 3 intelligence points. Ding! Intelligence points deducted by 3 points. Advancement Direction 1. Ghost Emperor Evolution, Compatibility 100%, unlock with 24 intelligence points. 2. Shadow Lord Evolution, Compatibility 98%, unlock with 60 intelligence points. Was that all? Su Hao was shocked, but after thinking about it carefully, he realized it made sense. Yama Ghost King was a special sprite, born extraordinary. The paths it could choose weren't as many as ordinary sprites, but the height that each path could reach was countless times higher than ordinary sprites. 2 pathways? He thought about it and was prepared to unlock them. Immediately. Boom! Countless information flowed into his mind, and Su Hao was bombarded with constant visual information. It was as if he was flying over a ghost city from high above. In the gloomy city, he could see countless ghost element sprites flying over from all directions, bowing their heads towards the Yama Ghost King sitting on the throne of bones in the center, showing their respect and loyalty. Ghost Emperor. This advanced pathway was the original development path of the Yama Ghost King. After it advanced, it would become a true Ghost Emperor. The difficulty of its advancement isn't very high either. As long as Ayan's cultivation level and comprehension of the shadow laws grows a bit more, and after his innate ability to control ghosts increase by another 2 levels, Ayan will be ready. Su Hao paused for a while before unlocking the second advanced plan. Intelligence points were deducted. In an instant, he felt like he was in an endless dark area. There were buildings here. There were plants, rocks, and rivers. However, everything here didn't have any life aura. All the buildings, plants, and so on had a deathly black color. It was as if time had frozen, as if a layer of shadow had covered everything. Only wisps of black smoke drifted in the air. He walked mechanically in this dark area until one moment. Hoo. The silent dark area seemed to come alive. A sprite wearing a black robe and a crown appeared. Its black robe had countless patterns, interweaved by shadow imprints. Once it appeared, countless black smoke drifting in the dark area swarmed over and lingered around it. It seemed to be jumping for joy, as if it was bowing its head. It was the core of the entire space. Its existence seemed to have represented everything. It seemed as if it was in control of everything. And as everyone knew, ghost element sprites were born from the shadows. The difficulty of this advancement pathway isn't low. It's also very difficult for the Yama Ghost King, which had been developed in the Ghost Emperor direction, to step onto this path. Its advancement also requires many special preparations to complete, but... Su Hao looked at Ayan in the shadow. A real fierce ghost should face difficulties head-on. I have a good feeling about you. Ayan.